Hello everyone. In my last video, I talked about the Trinitarian two-being Jesus. In Trinitarian doctrine, Jesus is one person and two natures, one divine nature, one human nature. And they're very careful to say Jesus is not two persons because that would be Nestorianism. So they often want to describe Jesus as one person, two natures. But if you think it through, these two natures result in two beings. Just as the one God is multiple persons and one being, because he has one nature, Jesus is like the reverse of that and is one person instead of multiple persons, but has multiple natures instead of one nature. So if God is one being, then Jesus is multiple beings, if you use the same reasoning. And indeed, in the doctrine of Trinity, you have Jesus, the divine being, and Jesus, the human being. Jesus, the divine being, just being another way to say Jesus, the only true God, because that's what the divine being is, the only true God, and vice versa. What you end up with here is a self-contradictory Jesus. A Jesus who is a walking contradiction. Things are true and false about the same person at the same time. Except in Catholicism, Jesus has a mother and Jesus does not have a mother. God the Son doesn't have a mother in Protestantism. So Jesus, according to his divine nature, doesn't have a mother. And that's even true in Catholic doctrine, if you put it that way, even though they'll say Mary's the mother of God. You have a person who was all-knowing on one hand, but not all-knowing on the other hand. Indeed, he grew in wisdom and knowledge. Jesus, the human being, grew in wisdom and knowledge. Jesus, the divine being, did not. Totally the opposite. What is true for one is false of the other. Jesus, the human being, did not know the hour of his return. Jesus, the divine being, does, and he must. God is all-knowing. So he knows and does not know at the same time, this one person. Self-contradictory. He is true, this is true and false of Jesus at the same time. He is knowing and he is not knowing at the same time. This one person had a God. This one person did not have a God at the same time. It is true that this one person had a God. It is false that this one person had a God at the same time. This person is not God and is God at the same time. He is both God and not God at the same time. Is not. True and false. It is true that Jesus had a God. It is false that Jesus had a God. It is true that Jesus was God. It is false that Jesus was God in Trinitarian doctrine. Jesus, according to his humanity, is not God. That's why he can have a God in Trinitarian doctrine. Jesus, the divine being, was God. True. Jesus, the divine being, was not God. False. Jesus, the human being, was God. False. Jesus, the human being, was not God. True. Jesus was God. True. Jesus was God. False. Jesus was God. True. Jesus was God. False. See that? He's a self-contradictory person. It is as if the divine being Jesus is an imposter to the human being Jesus. And the human being Jesus is an imposter to the divine being Jesus. Think about that really careful. And yet, it's supposed to be one person. And that's where Trinitarians just keep going back to. They don't stop and think about the implications of what they're saying. You know, saying that, well, Jesus was this according to his humanity, Jesus was that according to his divinity, it doesn't change this problem. It's still there. If you have a Jesus who is supposed to be the truth, I am the truth. It didn't say my nature is the truth. I, me, the person. I refers to person. I am the truth. And things are true and false about him at the same time. What does that say about your Jesus? Something really wrong there, isn't there? In Trinitarian doctrine, the second person of the Trinity is impassible. It cannot die, cannot be dead. Who is dead then? I'm not asking who was dying or who died. I'm asking who was dead. Who was that dead flesh on the cross? If it was no one died for your sins. John said they put Jesus in the tomb. He didn't just say they put Jesus' body in the tomb. He said they put Jesus in the tomb. And when he went missing, Mary said they have taken the Lord out of the tomb. He didn't say the Lord's body, the Lord. Was this person the same person who was the second person of the Trinity? If so, then the second person of the Trinity was dead. But of course, the second person of the Trinity can't be dead because the second person of the Trinity is impassible, right? It was that other Jesus that was dead, right? The human being. The divine being wasn't. Jesus, the human being, isn't God. That's that other being, the divine being. Jesus, the divine being, wasn't the one who didn't know the hour. That was that other being, Jesus, the human being. Jesus, the divine being, didn't grow in wisdom and knowledge. That was that other Jesus, Jesus, the human being, right? Some Trinitarians aren't going to like it when I say that's that other Jesus, but that's what you're saying. You just don't like to hear it. You have a Jesus who is and who is not at the same time. And of course, according to your logic, you're going to say, well, that can be true, as long as I'm not saying it's contradictory in the same way, right? You are. Same person. You're just fooling yourself there. The logic doesn't work. Think about it carefully. People talk about Jesus as if he's two persons while they're saying that he's one for a reason. This two-nature Jesus is convenient to change him into two persons when you need this to be true and this to be false and so on. Two beings. Jesus the human being, Jesus the divine being. What is true of one is not true of the other. Jesus the human being was weak. As Paul says, he died in weakness. Jesus the divine being, powerful, almighty, all-knowing, everywhere present. Jesus the human being, not almighty, weak, mortal, finite. He's not everywhere present. Jesus is everywhere present and not at the same time in Trinitarian doctrine. Jesus is all-knowing and not all-knowing at the same time. The same person. Almighty and weak at the same time. And this is supposed to make sense. That one person is both of these. The light is on and off at the same time. You ever see a light that's on and off at the same time? I urge you to think about these things very carefully. God bless you.